In a luxurious mansion, a girl lives under the facade of an exemplary family and the terror of a dark room. An anonymous tip and a silent housekeeper reveal secrets no one dared to face. That night, a golden key unlocks truths that will change everything. High in Belgravia, London's most exclusive district, stood the Kensington Mansion, a palace of glass and marble that reflected the sun like a giant crystal. There lived Sophia, a 6-year-old girl with large, always watchful brown eyes and a smile that rarely appeared. Her father, William Kensington, owned one of the country's largest construction companies, constantly shuttling between meetings and international trips. Her stepmother, Eleanor Thorne, a former model and current wellness influencer, was admired on social media for her impeccable elegance and constant presence at charity events. What no one saw was the Eleanor who existed when the doors closed and the cameras turned off. "Sophia, come here immediately," the voice echoed through the white marble hallway. The girl, who was playing silently with her worn teddy bear, the only gift she kept from her biological mother, trembled. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered, running down the hall. Her steps were light, almost inaudible, as if she had learned to exist without making a sound. Eleanor waited in the entrance hall, her immaculate white dress and perfectly styled hair contrasting with her harsh expression. Beside her, a new employee observed the scene with discreet discomfort. "This is Mrs. Cecilia, our new governess. I expect you to behave better with her than with the previous ones." The tone was glacial. "Show her your room." Sophia nodded and led the woman down the corridor. The room was immense, decorated with expensive furniture and toys that seemed never to have been used. Everything there had the appearance of a staged set, lifeless and without personality. "It's a very beautiful room, Sophia," Cecilia commented, trying to break the silence. The girl merely hugged her bear, Teddy, tighter and whispered something inaudible. "What did you say, dear?" Cecilia knelt to be at the child's eye level. "This isn't where I sleep when she's mad at me," the girl replied, so quietly that Cecilia almost didn't hear. Before she could ask more, they heard Eleanor's heels approaching. Sophia immediately moved away and sat on the edge of the bed, eyes downcast, hugging the bear as if her life depended on it. "Any problems?" Eleanor asked, her smile not reaching her eyes. "No, ma'am. Just getting to know the house," Cecilia replied. "Excellent. Sophia has ballet class in an hour. Please get her ready." When Eleanor left, Cecilia noticed how the girl's shoulders relaxed slightly. As she helped the child dress for ballet, she observed purplish marks on her arms. "How did you hurt your arm, dear?" "I fell," she answered mechanically, as if she had memorized the response. At the ballet school, Sophia remained isolated from the other children. The teacher, Mrs. Marianne, watched worriedly as the girl flinched when someone got too close. At the end of class, while the other children left chatting animatedly with their parents, Sophia waited alone, always in the same corner, until the driver came to pick her up. Marianne approached Cecilia, who was waiting with the girl. "She doesn't interact with the other children," Marianne commented. "I've tried everything. It's as if she's afraid to make friends." "Mrs. Kensington is very strict about her education," Cecilia replied cautiously. "Strict is an understatement," Marianne murmured. "Last week, Sophia came with a beautiful drawing we made in class. Eleanor tore it up in front of her, saying it was unsuitable for the family's standing. On the way back, Sophia remained silent in the back seat of the car, clutching her bear. When they arrived, they found Eleanor in the hall on the phone. "William, darling, we miss you. Sophia asks about you every day." Her voice was syrupy, unrecognizable to anyone who had heard her yelling at the staff moments before. "Yes, she's doing very well in ballet. The teacher says she's talented." Sophia looked at the floor. Her father hadn't spoken to her on the phone for weeks. That night, as Cecilia tidied the guest room where she would sleep, she heard a muffled scream. She followed the sound to a door in the back corridor. It was locked. "Eleanor, please let me out," Sophia's weak voice pleaded from the other side. "I promise I'll be good. You broke the Venetian vase. Do you know how much it cost?" "More than you're worth," Eleanor replied from the other side of the corridor. "You'll stay there until you learn." Cecilia hid when Eleanor passed. Afterward, she returned to the door. "Sophia, are you all right?" "Who is it?" The girl's voice was pure fear. "It's me, Cecilia. I'm going to help you. You can't. She has the keys. And she'll send you away if she knows you talk to me. Don't be afraid. I'll find a way. The next morning, Sophia appeared at breakfast with deep dark circles under her eyes and quieter than usual. Eleanor chatted animatedly on the phone about a charity event she was organizing. It will be wonderful, Denise. We're raising funds for underprivileged children. You know how much I love to help. Her smile was radiant as she mechanically stroked Sophia's head, who flinched at the touch. After breakfast, Eleanor left for the spa, leaving strict orders. Sophia needs to study piano for 2 hours, then remedial tutoring. No television or playing until she finishes. As soon as Eleanor left, Cecilia took the girl to the garden. Let's get some sun before studying. In the garden, under the watchful eye of security cameras, Sophia seemed like a prisoner on parole, constantly looking around. My mother. My real mother liked gardens, she whispered, touching a yellow flower. Daddy said she planted sunflowers. Do you miss her? Sophia nodded. She went to heaven when I was a baby. Then Aunt Eleanor came. Daddy said she would be my new mother, but... She stopped, frightened by her own daring to speak. But what, dear? Nothing. Sophia closed herself off again. That afternoon, while Sophia slept after lunch, Cecilia discreetly searched the house. She found several locked rooms. In one of them, through the keyhole, she saw only darkness. In Eleanor's office, on the desk, there was a dossier titled Social Report Kensington Family, and a series of carefully arranged photographs showing Eleanor, William and Sophia as the perfect family. When she heard Eleanor's car arriving, Cecilia quickly left the office, determined to find out what was happening in that house of appearances. Something was wrong, and she wouldn't rest until she discovered what it was. Brenda Hayes had worked for 20 years as a social worker at the London Child Welfare Services. At 45, her eyes carried the experience of someone who had seen it all, but her heart still held the same flame that had led her to choose this profession. On that April morning, she was reviewing her list of scheduled visits when her supervisor entered the room. Brenda, I need you to make an extra visit today. The Kensington family in Belgravia. Kensington? The construction magnate? She asked, surprised. The very one. We received an anonymous call about his daughter. Probably nothing, you know how these elite families are. But we need to check. Brenda nodded, accustomed to complaints that often amounted to nothing more than intrigues between wealthy neighbors. But she never failed to investigate each case with the same care. Upon arriving at the Kensington mansion, she was greeted by Eleanor, impeccably dressed, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A social worker? There must be some mistake, Eleanor said, adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Our family doesn't need that kind of service. It's just a routine visit. Mrs. Kensington, the services conduct random visits in different districts of the city, Brenda explained, using the standard excuse to avoid revealing the complaint. May I come in? Reluctantly, Eleanor led her through the house, showing perfectly arranged rooms and talking about Sophia's extracurricular activities. My stepdaughter has ballet, piano, English, and French lessons. We want her to have all the opportunities a Kensington deserves. May I meet her? Brenda asked. Unfortunately, she's at school right now. Perhaps on another visit. It was then that Brenda heard a noise coming from upstairs. Eleanor tried to cover it up, raising her voice. As I was saying, we invest a lot in her education and... Is there anyone else at home? Brenda interrupted. Only the staff. At that moment, a woman appeared on the stairs. Mrs. Eleanor, Sophia has a fever. I just measured it. 38 degrees Celsius. Eleanor shot a furious look at the employee. Cecilia, I thought I instructed you not to interrupt me when I have visitors. Brenda immediately sensed the tension. I thought Sophia was at school. She got sick this morning, Eleanor improvised. We were going to take her to the doctor later. May I see her? I have experience with sick children, Brenda insisted. With no alternative, Eleanor led them to Sophia's room. The girl was lying in bed, her face pale, hugging her worn teddy bear. When she saw Eleanor, her eyes widened in alarm. Hello, Sophia. I'm Brenda, she introduced herself softly. Are you not feeling well today? The girl looked at Eleanor as if asking for permission to answer. Come on. Sophia, answer the lady, Eleanor ordered. With forced sweetness. I have a headache, the girl whispered. Brenda approached and noticed marks on the child's wrist. It looked like something had pressed against her skin, leaving red welts. "How did you hurt your wrist, dear?" Before Sophia could answer, Eleanor intervened. She had an allergic reaction to a new bracelet she received. "Didn't you, Sophia?" The girl nodded automatically, but her eyes told another story. As she discreetly examined the room, Brenda noticed that despite the expensive toys and sophisticated decor, there was something strange. Everything seemed untouched, like a movie set, except for the teddy bear worn from constant use. "What a nice bear you have there. What's his name?" she asked. "Teddy," Sophia replied, with the first genuine expression Brenda had seen. "Because he's brown and warm." "He was a gift from her father," Eleanor quickly added. "Actually, he was from my mother," Sophia corrected, then immediately lowered her eyes as if she had made a grave mistake. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Eleanor became tense, and Sophia cowered in bed. Brenda observed the dynamic with growing concern. "Mrs. Kensington, could you bring me a glass of water, please? My throat is dry." When Eleanor left, Brenda approached Sophia. "Are you safe here, dear?" The girl looked at the door, fearful. Cecilia, who had remained in the room, approached. "She needs help," the governess whispered. "Mrs. Eleanor punishes her by locking her in the dark." "Where?" Brenda asked quickly. "There's a room in the back, without windows. She stays there for hours, sometimes days." Before they could continue, they heard Eleanor's footsteps returning. Sophia quickly cowered again, and Cecilia moved away, pretending to adjust the pillow. After a few more questions, Brenda said goodbye, promising to return to check on Sophia's recovery. On her way to her car, an elderly lady discreetly approached her from the neighboring garden. "You're from the government, aren't you? You came because of the girl," Brenda discreetly confirmed. "My name is Mrs. Eleanor. I've lived here for 40 years, and I've never seen anything like what happens in that house. That woman screams at the girl in the middle of the night. I've heard crying many times. Have you ever made a complaint?" "I tried once. Lawyers came to threaten me with a defamation lawsuit. I'm a widow. I live on a pension. I can't face powerful people." Brenda noted Mrs. Eleanor's contact and promised confidentiality. Back at the Child Welfare Services, she researched previous records of the Kensington family. To her surprise, she found 3 reports classifying them as a model family, with no mention of problems. All signed by the same social worker, who curiously had been promoted shortly after the last report. Intrigued, Brenda decided to visit Sophia's school the next day. The director, an elegant woman named Regina, received her formally. "The Kensington family is one of our most important. Mr. William made a generous donation to our new library." "I'm interested in Sophia's behavior, not her father's donations," Brenda clarified. Reluctantly, Regina called Sophia's teacher. Louise, a young woman in her 20s, seemed genuinely concerned about her student. "Sophia is extremely quiet. She doesn't interact with the other children and gets nervous when she has to speak in public. She always wears long-sleeved clothes, even on hot days." "Have you noticed any physical marks on her?" Louise hesitated. "Once, during physical education, her sleeve went up and I saw marks on her arms. When I asked, she said she fell off her bike, but they didn't look like fall marks." "Does she draw in art class?" "Yes, they are. Disturbing most of the time." "Wait." Louise retrieved a folder and showed Sophia's work. They were drawings of closed doors, of a tall woman with an angry expression, and repeatedly, a golden key. "This is the most recent," she said, showing a drawing of a dark room with the words "dark closet, I'm scared," written in childish letters. Brenda photographed the drawings with Louise's permission. As she left the school, she received a call from her supervisor, Teresa. "Hayes, I received a complaint from Mrs. Kensington about your visit yesterday. She claims you were invasive and made unfounded accusations." "I made no accusations, I just... Look, these people have influence. Her husband is a personal friend of the mayor. Be careful." "I'm following standard protocol," she replied firmly, "and I found concerning elements." That night, Brenda couldn't sleep. The images of Sophia's drawings, the girl's frightened eyes, the marks on her wrists, everything mixed in her mind. In the morning, she made a decision. She would investigate further, even if it meant facing powerful people. Sophia's safety was worth any risk. Brenda knew she would need help. This was not an investigation she could conduct alone, especially against a family with the power of the Kensingtons. In her small apartment in Islington, she spread all the information she had collected on the kitchen table, Sophia's drawings, her notes from the visit, the testimony of the teacher and the neighbor. The pattern was clear and alarming, but she needed more evidence and, most importantly, allies. Her first call was to Felicity Brooks, a lawyer she had met years ago in a similar case. Felicity worked at the Institute for the Defense of Children's and Adolescents' Rights, a respected NGO in the city. Cases involving powerful families are always complicated, Felicity commented after hearing the account. Justice tends to be short-sighted when it comes to people with influence. That's why I need your help. I can't leave that girl there. We'll need irrefutable evidence and also public exposure. Power hates the spotlight. Public exposure? Are you thinking of someone from the press? Brenda asked. I know the right person. Ryan Stone, investigative journalist for the London Chronicle. He's not easily intimidated. The next day, the three met at a discreet coffee shop in the city centre. Ryan, a man in his 30s with permanent dark circles under his eyes and a determined look, listened attentively as he flipped through copies of Sophia's drawings. These drawings are consistent with child trauma, he commented, pointing to the repetition of the darkroom theme. I've seen similar patterns in other investigations. The problem is we need more concrete evidence, Felicity explained, something that justifies legal action to remove the child from that environment. And we have to act discreetly, Brenda added. If Eleanor Kensington finds out we're investigating, she could harm the girl even more, or destroy evidence. Ryan took a sip of coffee, thoughtful. I have a contact in the Human Resources Department of Kensington Construction. I can try to gather information about former household staff, someone who left recently and is willing to talk. I can look in the Institute's archives to see if there have been any previous complaints that didn't reach the Child Welfare Services, Felicity offered. Sometimes people seek out NGOs when they don't trust official institutions. Brenda nodded. In the meantime, I'll continue to monitor the house discreetly. I also need to find a way to talk to this governess, Cecilia. She seemed genuinely concerned about Sophia. The three made a pact that afternoon. It wasn't just a professional case, it was a personal mission. A child needed them. The following week, Ryan obtained a list of former employees of the Kensington mansion. Turnover was surprisingly high. No employee except the driver and gardener had stayed more than 6 months in the last 2 years. That's a red flag, the journalist commented. Toxic environment, possibly abusive for employees too. After several attempts, he managed to arrange a meeting with Anthony, the former gardener who had worked at the mansion for almost 3 years before being abruptly dismissed 6 months ago. The meeting took place in a simple pub in the East End. Anthony, a 60-year-old man with calloused hands and a suspicious gaze, initially hesitated to speak. I signed a confidentiality agreement, he explained. If they find out I said anything, I could be sued. We're talking about a child's well-being, Ryan argued. No contract in the world can force someone to remain silent about child abuse. Slowly, Anthony began to speak. He recounted how Eleanor would yell at Sophia for trivial reasons, a stain on her clothes, a flower picked without permission, homework with a small mistake. He described times he saw the girl dragged crying into the house. The worst was the punishment room, he revealed, lowering his voice as if fearing he might be overheard even there. A room in the back of the mansion, without windows. I heard the little one beg not to be locked inside. That happened at least once a week. And the father? Brenda asked. Mr. Kensington never noticed anything. He's almost never home, and when he is, that woman turns into someone else. All sweet, all attentive to the girl. A perfect show. What caused your dismissal? Ryan questioned. Anthony looked around before answering. One day the girl came running to me in the garden. Her face was bruised. She was crying a lot. She said her stepmother pushed her against the wall. I comforted her, gave her some water. When I came back to get my tools at the end of the day, I was called to the office and fired on the spot. They claimed incompatibility with family values. Meanwhile, Felicity discovered something in the NGO's archives. 2 years earlier, an anonymous complaint had been made about Sophia's situation, but it had been filed away due to lack of evidence after a social visit. Coincidentally, it was right after the Child Welfare Services received a substantial donation from the Kensington Foundation, Felicity observed, showing the documents to Brenda. And the social worker responsible for the case was promoted a few months later. Buying influence, Brenda concluded, indignant. That explains why the previous reports are so positive. Brenda also obtained crucial information from her supervisor. William Kensington would be back in the UK in 2 weeks for the inauguration of a new construction project. It would be a unique opportunity to confront him with the reality of what was happening in his home. In parallel, Ryan investigated Eleanor's past. He discovered that she had been previously married to another wealthy businessman, significantly older, who had died under unclear circumstances. All of his fortune had been inherited by Eleanor. "I'm not liking the pattern I'm seeing," the journalist commented, showing his findings. "She approaches rich, isolated workaholic men. And Sophia's biological mother? What happened to her?" Felicity asked. "Helen Kensington, William's first wife. Officially, she died during childbirth due to complications. But I found a cousin of hers in Yorkshire who has another version. According to her, Helen was perfectly healthy throughout her pregnancy. The family never believed the official version, but had no way to prove anything. The trio realized they were dealing with something potentially more sinister than they initially imagined. While gathering this information, Brenda managed a new pretext to visit the Kensington mansion, a supposed Child Welfare Services survey on extracurricular activities for school-aged children. To her surprise, she found Cecilia alone with Sophia. Eleanor had left for a charity event. "I only have a few minutes," Cecilia whispered nervously, after sending Sophia to fetch her drawings from her room. Mrs. Eleanor installed cameras throughout the house, but not in the back garden. "We can talk there." In the small garden, protected by tall bushes, Cecilia finally spoke freely. "The situation is worse than it seems. She locks the girl in that room for any reason. She's even left her there all night without food. When Mr. Kensington calls, Eleanor never lets Sophia speak to him directly. She says she's busy sleeping or at school." "Why do you stay here, Cecilia?" "Because of her," she replied, looking towards the house. "If I leave, who will protect her? I've seen 3 governesses before me fired for trying to help. I'm afraid of what might happen if no one is here." Cecilia revealed another crucial detail. There was a diary Eleanor kept locked in a desk drawer in her office. She writes everything there, including the punishments she gives Sophia. It's almost as if she wants to document the girl's suffering. Before they could continue, they heard a car approaching. Eleanor was back earlier than expected. "Go to the front of the house," Cecilia instructed quickly. "I'll say you just arrived." As she walked to the main entrance, Brenda saw Sophia at the second-floor window, watching her leave from the darkness. The girl raised her hand in a timid wave, and at that moment Brenda knew there was no turning back. Regardless of the personal and professional risks, she wouldn't rest until she got that child out of there. At the next meeting with Felicity and Ryan, the decision was unanimous. They needed to act before William Kensington's return. The journalist would begin preparing an investigative report, but would only publish it when they had sufficient evidence and Sophia's safety was guaranteed. Felicity would begin the process to obtain a judicial injunction for a search and inspection of the residence. "It will be a difficult battle," the lawyer warned. "We are facing one of London's most powerful families. Are you prepared for the consequences?" Ryan and Brenda exchanged determined glances. "If we don't do anything, who will?" Brenda replied, thinking of the sad-eyed girl who had waved from the window. Some battles need to be fought, regardless of the odds. What they didn't yet know was that Eleanor had already noticed the movements around her house, and she was preparing her own strategy to neutralize any threat to the empire of appearances she had so carefully built. Eleanor Thorne Kensington had not gotten to where she was by being naive. Years of building her public image had made her a master at perceiving threats before they even materialized. Sitting in her office with white walls and minimalist furniture, she watched the security camera footage of the mansion. Cecilia and the social worker talking in the back garden, out of audio range but with unequivocal body language. "Amateurs," she murmured, pausing the image. With perfectly manicured fingers, she picked up the phone and dialed a number she rarely used. "Marcus, I need your services. I have a problem that requires absolute discretion." Her voice was calm, calculated, not revealing the rage simmering within. "Yes, the same fee as the previous case. I want everything on Brenda Hayes, social worker at the Child Welfare Services, and also on anyone she has met in the last few days." Meanwhile, across town, Brenda arrived at the Child Welfare Services for another day of work. She immediately noticed something strange in her colleagues' behavior. Furtive glances, conversations that ceased upon her approach. Her supervisor, Teresa, called her for a private conversation. "I received a call from the mayor's office this morning," Teresa began, visibly uncomfortable. "Apparently, Mrs. Kensington filed a formal complaint against you, alleging harassment and unethical conduct." "That's absurd," Brenda protested. "I'm following all protocols." "We also received this." Teresa pushed an envelope across the desk. It was a notice of a defamation lawsuit, demanding £1 million in compensation. "They're trying to intimidate me," Brenda concluded, feeling the weight of the threat, but refusing to back down. "The services cannot support investigations that appear persecutory against families without a history of problems," Teresa continued. "You are temporarily removed from the Kensington case and any other involving high-profile families." Brenda left the office stunned, but not surprised. It was the expected move from people accustomed to using power to silence opposition. In her car, she immediately called Felicity and Ryan. "The retaliation has begun," she informed them. "I've been removed from the case and I'm being sued." "I also received a summons," Ryan revealed, "and something more concerning. The editor-in-chief called me earlier today. Kensington Construction tripled its advertising quota in the newspaper last week, with the express condition that I be removed from any story involving the company or the family." "They're closing in," Felicity concluded. "With me too." The Institute received a generous partnership proposal from the Kensington Foundation, with the condition that I be removed from the legal directorship. The three agreed to meet in a safe place, Ryan's aunt's small guest house in rural Yorkshire, where they could plan their next steps away from prying eyes and ears. The next morning, before Brenda could leave home, she was surprised by a television report. Eleanor Kensington, elegantly dressed, appeared at a charity event for underprivileged children, announcing a £5 million donation for the construction of nurseries in deprived areas. "As a mother, nothing pains me more than seeing helpless children," Eleanor declared with controlled tears in her eyes. "My stepdaughter, Sophia, taught me the true meaning of maternal love. And I want to share that love with all the children of London." The camera showed Sophia next to her stepmother, in an expensive dress and with a visibly rehearsed smile. Her eyes, however, remained empty, distant. Only those who knew the signs of child trauma could notice the girl's discomfort when touched by Eleanor. "It's a public image strategy," Ryan explained when they met. "She's positioning herself as a benefactor and dedicated mother. It makes our job even more difficult, as any accusation will seem envious or petty in the face of this saintly image." In the following days, Eleanor intensified her campaign. She appeared on 3 television programs talking about motherhood and philanthropy. In one of them, she even mentioned ill-intentioned people who try to destroy families out of envy or resentment. The message was clear to the trio. Meanwhile, Brenda faced growing problems. She was called to a disciplinary hearing at the Child Welfare Services, where longtime colleagues now avoided her gaze. A reporter from a sensationalist newspaper appeared at her building, asking about allegations of improper conduct with assisted families. Her tires were punctured twice in the same week. Ryan discovered that his apartment had been searched. Files disappeared, computer damaged. Felicity received anonymous calls late at night, with recordings of private conversations she had had in her own office. "We're being monitored," Ryan concluded. Eleanor hired private investigators, perhaps former police officers. "It's common among the powerful." "The worst part is that Sophia is still there," Brenda lamented. "And now with this overexposure, I fear her situation will worsen when the cameras turn off." Cecilia confirmed these fears through coded messages she managed to send occasionally. After each public event, her behavior worsens. The girl was locked up twice this week for not smiling properly in photos. The situation seemed to deteriorate further when Felicity brought news that rekindled hope. "I got the injunction for a home inspection," she announced, showing the judicial document. "Our judge from the children's court, whom I helped years ago, understood the urgency of the case. We have authorization to enter the house and verify Sophia's conditions, accompanied by a court officer and a forensic doctor." "When can we act?" Brenda asked, feeling a wave of relief. "Tomorrow morning. The injunction has already been issued, but it will only be officially communicated 1 hour before our arrival. This way we prevent Eleanor from staging a scene or removing evidence." "What if she's not home?" Ryan questioned. "The injunction is for the residents, not the person. If the house is empty, even better. We'll have access without interference." That night, each of the three prepared in their own way for the confrontation to come. Brenda reviewed her reports and notes, ensuring nothing would be forgotten. Ryan organized a discreet support team. A trusted photographer would be on standby, not for immediate publication, but for official documentation. Felicity reviewed every line of the injunction, anticipating possible legal obstacles. At the Kensington mansion, Eleanor was also preparing, but in a different way. After receiving a call from her informant at the court, she knew exactly what was coming in the morning. Instead of panic, she felt a calculating calm. "Cecilia, pack Sophia's things for a trip," she ordered. "We're going to spend a few days at the beach house." "But ma'am, what about school?" Cecilia asked, trying to hide her alarm. "Call the director and inform her that Sophia needed to travel for family reasons. Don't worry, everyone understands when a Kensington makes a request." As the governess went upstairs to pack, Eleanor made another call. "Marcus, I need you to clean that special room completely, do you understand? Nothing must remain that indicates its original purpose." On the other end of the line, a grave voice replied, "It will be done today, ma'am." "And what about the other sensitive materials?" "Take everything to the safe in the office. The documents, the diary, the tapes, and prepare Plan B in case we need to leave the country temporarily." Cecilia, who was listening to the conversation hidden in the corridor, waited for Eleanor to move away before sending an urgent message to Brenda. "They're fleeing tomorrow morning. Cleaning up evidence tonight. The golden key to the dark room is hanging in the office. Come before it's too late." Brenda received the message when she was already in bed, unsuccessfully trying to fall asleep. She immediately called Felicity. "We need to act now," she insisted. "We can't wait until tomorrow." "The injunction is only valid from 8 a.m., Felicity explained. "If we enter before then, everything we find will be judicially invalidated." "What if there's nothing to find tomorrow? What if the girl isn't there anymore?" After a tense discussion, Felicity agreed to call the judge, explaining the urgency of the situation. After an agonizing half-hour, she received the answer. The injunction would be brought forward to 10 p.m. that same night, with an emergency character. "We have 2 hours to gather the team," Felicity informed them. "I'll activate the duty court officer. Ryan, can you bring the doctor?" "My sister is a pediatrician at St. Thomas's Hospital. She'll come." As the trio mobilized for the night operation at the Kensington mansion, Eleanor finished preparations for the escape. Sophia, not understanding what was happening, hugged her bear teddy in her room, watching Cecilia hastily pack her clothes. "Where are we going, Cecilia?" the girl asked, her voice almost a whisper. The governess knelt in front of her, holding her small hands. "Don't be afraid, dear. Tonight good people will come to help you. What if she gets mad at me again? This time it will be different. I promise." Cecilia hugged the child, silently praying that her words would prove true. In the mansion's main living room, Eleanor watched from the window, a glass of expensive wine in her hand. Her phone rang. It was William. "Darling, what a surprise!" Her voice instantly changed to the sweet tone she reserved exclusively for her husband. "Yes, we're fine. Sophia? She's sleeping, had a busy day at school. Tomorrow we're leaving for Brighton. I thought I'd surprise you when you get back. The beach house looks lovely after the renovation." As she spoke, her eyes fixed on the wall clock. 9:30. In a few hours they would be far away, and the carefully orchestrated plan would continue without interruption. What she didn't know was that, less than 10 blocks away, a determined group was gathering to embark on a mission that would change the destiny of everyone involved, especially that of a little girl who, at that moment, hugged her worn bear as her only source of comfort in the world. The fine rain falling over London that night seemed like an omen. 2 unmarked police cars parked a block away from the Kensington mansion. In the first car, Brenda took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. Beside her, Dr. Lucy, Ryan's pediatrician's sister, organized her medical bag. In the back seat, the court officer, Mr. Paul Harrison, reread the injunction one last time. "Remember," Felicity said, "from the passenger seat of the second car, we are an official team fulfilling a court order. No matter what they say or do to intimidate us, we have legal backing for this inspection." Ryan, at the wheel, nodded. With them was also Dr. Marilyn Cross, a child psychologist specializing in trauma, who had agreed to participate in the operation, even with the last-minute notice. At 10:15 p.m., the 5 approached the mansion's main gate. The security guard, surprised by the arrival of visitors at that hour, tried to stop them. "I have an emergency judicial inspection order," the officer announced, presenting the document. "If you obstruct our entry, you will be committing a crime of disobedience to a court order." Reluctantly, the security guard opened the gate, not before making a quick call. When the group arrived at the main door, Eleanor was already waiting for them, impeccably dressed despite the late hour, as if expecting visitors. "This is absurd," she declared, with a cold smile. "Invading the home of a respectable family in the middle of the night, based on slander and defamation." "Mrs. Kensington," the officer replied calmly, "this is not an invasion, but a judicially authorized inspection. You may accompany the entire procedure, but you cannot prevent our access to any area of the residence." "My lawyers will know about this in the morning," she threatened, but stepped aside for the group. The interior of the mansion was even more impressive than Brenda remembered. Everything exuded luxury and perfection. Every object seemed positioned by a professional decorator. "Where is Sophia?" Brenda asked. "Sleeping, obviously. It's almost 11 at night. I will not allow you to disturb a 6-year-old child's sleep." Dr. Lucy intervened. "As a doctor, I can assure you that a brief evaluation will cause no harm. It is essential to check her physical well-being. And as a psychologist," Dr. Marilyn added, "I need to observe the environment in which the child lives, including her room and living spaces." Reluctantly, Eleanor led them upstairs. Sophia's room was exactly as Brenda remembered, too perfect, like a children's furniture showroom. The girl was lying on the king-size bed, but her open eyes revealed she was not asleep. When she saw Brenda, a flash of recognition lit her gaze. "Hello, Sophia," Brenda said softly. "Do you remember me?" The girl nodded silently. "These people are doctors," she explained. "They came to check if you're okay. Is it all right if we talk for a little while?" Before Sophia could answer, Eleanor interjected, "That's enough. You're scaring my daughter." "Stepdaughter," Ryan corrected, speaking for the first time, "and according to our records, you never formalized the child's adoption." Eleanor glared at him with controlled fury. "Who are you to question my relationship with Sophia? I'm an investigative journalist, and I have some questions about how you obtained her guardianship after her biological mother's death." While Ryan distracted Eleanor, Brenda and the doctors approached Sophia. Dr. Lucy performed a preliminary examination, documenting marks on the girl's arms and back. "Sophia, can you tell me how you got these marks?" the doctor asked gently. "I fell," she replied automatically, looking at Eleanor. Dr. Marilyn noticed the pattern. "Sweetheart, you're not in trouble. We're here to help you. Can you tell us what happens when you do something your stepmother doesn't like?" Sophia hugged her bear tightly, her eyes welling up. "The dark room," she finally whispered. "She locks me in there." Eleanor stepped forward, trying to interrupt, but the court officer blocked her path. "Ma'am, any attempt at obstruction will result in your removal from the room." "Where is this room, Sophia?" Brenda asked. "In the back corridor. There's a golden key." Ryan and the officer exchanged glances. "We'll check that location immediately," Paul decided. "This is ridiculous." "There's no dark room," Eleanor protested. "It's a child's imagination. Sophia has always been prone to fantasies, hasn't she, dear?" The girl lowered her eyes, trembling visibly. "Gentlemen, I need you to examine the child alone," Dr. Lucy requested, "without the stepmother's presence." After some resistance, Eleanor was escorted out of the room by the officer. In the corridor, they found Cecilia, who was watching everything with a mixture of fear and hope. Madam, can you show us where the room mentioned by the child is? Felicity asked the governess. I'll be fired, Cecilia whispered, looking nervously at Eleanor. Any retaliation against witnesses will constitute obstruction of justice, the officer assured her. You are legally protected. Cecilia hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. The group walked down a side corridor that Brenda hadn't known from her previous visits. They reached a more isolated area of the mansion, where there was a simple, undecorated door, contrasting with the luxury of the rest of the house. The key is in the office, Cecilia informed them. Ryan and the officer went to the office while the others remained in the corridor. Eleanor, now visibly nervous, tried a new approach. This is a misunderstanding. That's just a storage room. Sophia calls it dark because it has no windows, but I've never locked her in there. It's absurd. Minutes later, Ryan returned with a golden key, exactly like the one Sophia had drawn in her schoolwork. We found this hanging on a key rack in the office, he explained, handing it to the officer. When the door was opened, the smell of mold and confinement invaded the corridor. Brenda felt her stomach churn as she saw the interior, a small windowless room with acoustic insulation on the walls, a thin mattress on the floor, a bucket in the corner, and scratch marks on the inside of the door. Most disturbing, childish drawings pasted on one wall, all depicting the same theme, a locked girl crying, with a brown bear beside her. My God, Felicity whispered, documenting everything with her camera. Eleanor attempted a desperate explanation. This is not what it looks like. It's a sensory room for when Sophia gets too agitated. It's therapeutic. Therapeutic, Dr. Marilyn repeated, incredulous. This is a chamber of psychological torture for a child. Forced isolation in a confined space causes permanent damage to child development. Back in Sophia's room, they found Dr. Lucy concluding her examination. Her preliminary report was devastating. Mild malnutrition, multiple contusions in different stages of healing, signs of chronic stress. Sophia, Brenda asked gently, do you feel safe living here? The girl, still clutching her bear teddy, looked at everyone in the room before finally shaking her head. A silent tear rolled down her face. Sweetheart, do you know what a safe place is? Dr. Marilyn asked. A place where you're not afraid? School, Sophia replied in a low voice. And the garden, when Aunt Eleanor isn't looking. After a brief conference in the corridor, the decision was unanimous. The court officer returned to the room and announced, based on the evidence collected and the child's testimony, I order the immediate removal of Sophia Kensington from this residence and her placement in temporary shelter. Pending a definitive court decision. You can't do this, Eleanor screamed, losing her composure completely. I am Eleanor Kensington. My husband is a personal friend of the governor. You don't know who you're messing with. Madam, you are obstructing a court order, the officer warned. If you continue, I will be forced to request your restraint. While Eleanor shouted threats on the phone to her lawyer, Brenda helped Sophia pack a small bag. The girl only asked for a few changes of clothes and her bear teddy. Can I also take this drawing? She asked, showing a paper hidden under her pillow. It was a portrait of a smiling woman with the word Mommy written in childish letters. Of course you can, dear. Brenda felt a lump in her throat. You can take whatever you want. Cecilia approached, handing Brenda a small box. These are her medications and some important documents, birth certificate, vaccination card. I kept copies, fearing something like this might happen one day. You risked a lot, Brenda commented. Thank you for not giving up on her. I promised my sister I would protect her niece, Cecilia revealed, tears in her eyes. I worked in William's first wife's house. Helen was my cousin. I came here under a false name to watch over Sophia, after my attempts to warn William were blocked by Eleanor. This revelation shocked everyone. Ryan immediately began taking notes, realizing the greater dimension of the story. Leaving the mansion, Sophia, wrapped in a blanket and clutching her bear, looked one last time at the imposing structure. There was no sadness in her gaze, only a mixture of relief and uncertainty about the future. In the car, Brenda held the girl's small hand. You're safe now, she promised, words she had repeated to countless children throughout her career, but which had never carried so much weight. Sophia did not respond with words, but for the first time since Brenda had known her, the girl relaxed her shoulders and closed her eyes, allowing herself to fall asleep without fear of where she would wake up. As the car drove away from the mansion, Ryan looked in the rearview mirror. "This isn't over yet," he commented. "Eleanor has influence, money, and desperation. A dangerous combination." "But now we have the truth on our side," Felicity replied, observing the sleeping girl. "And sometimes that's more powerful than any influence." Dawn found Sophia in a special foster home for vulnerable children. The place was simple but welcoming, with trained educators and a protected environment. For the first time in years, she could have breakfast without being criticized for her posture, play without fearing punishment for accidental messes, and sleep in a room with an unlocked door. Meanwhile, in the city center, a media storm was just beginning. Eleanor mobilized her entire network of influence to reverse the situation and destroy the reputation of those responsible for the kidnapping of her stepdaughter. What she didn't know was that a private plane was landing at Heathrow at that moment, bringing William Kensington back to the UK, summoned by an urgent phone call from Cecilia, who had finally managed to break through the blockade imposed by Eleanor and reveal the truth to Sophia's father. William Kensington stepped off the private jet with a face heavy with worry. At 42, the successful businessman seemed to have aged a decade in the last 24 hours since Cecilia's phone call. The limousine awaiting him did not head to the Belgravia mansion, but to a discreet office in the city centre, where Cecilia was waiting for him. "How could this have happened right under my nose?" he asked, his voice choked after hearing the governess's full account. "How did I not notice anything?" "She was extremely careful, sir," Cecilia replied. "When you were home, Eleanor was the perfect stepmother. The punishments and mistreatment only occurred in your absence, and she monitored all of Sophia's communications, ensuring the girl never spoke freely with you." William covered his face with his hands. "Helen trusted me to protect our daughter. I failed miserably." "It's not too late to fix this," Cecilia consoled him. "Sophia needs her father now more than ever." Across town at the Institute for the Defense of Children's Rights, Brenda, Ryan, and Felicity faced a growing crisis. News of Sophia's removal from the Kensington mansion had leaked to the press, but with a distorted narrative. Sensational headlines spoke of child kidnapping by suspended social worker and attack on traditional family. "She has contacts in all the major media outlets," Ryan commented, showing the articles on his tablet. "They're painting Eleanor as a victim and us as radicals with political motivations." "It was expected," Felicity replied, without taking her eyes off the documents she was preparing. "But we have something she doesn't. Concrete evidence." "And what about Sophia? How is she?" William asked, who had just arrived with Cecilia. The three turned, surprised by the businessman's presence. Felicity was the first to compose herself. "Mr. Kensington, we didn't expect to see you so soon. Sophia is safe in a specialized foster home, receiving medical and psychological care." "I want to see her immediately," he demanded. "I understand your urgency," Brenda intervened, "but we need to follow legal protocol. The visit will need to be supervised by professionals, considering the recent trauma." "Trauma caused in my own home," William murmured, collapsing into a chair. "While I built buildings around the world, my daughter lived a nightmare." "Mr. Kensington," Ryan said, "we need to understand a few things. Did you really not know what was happening? Did you never notice strange behaviors in your daughter or Eleanor?" "I'm out of the country 280 days a year," William confessed. "When I'm home, I see Sophia for a few hours, always in Eleanor's presence. In the last 2 years, my daughter did seem quieter, less spontaneous, but Eleanor attributed it to her developmental stage, school adjustment. I believed it, because it was convenient to believe." The man's painful sincerity silenced everyone for a moment. Then Felicity resumed speaking. "We have a preliminary hearing tomorrow morning. The judge will determine Sophia's temporary situation while the case is investigated. We need your testimony, Mr. Kensington, and proof that you can provide a safe environment for your daughter." "I will do whatever it takes," he assured them. "I have already instructed my lawyers not to contest any protective measures for Sophia. My only concern is her well-being." As they spoke, an emergency call came for Brenda. It was from the foster home where Sophia was staying. "There's a crowd in front of the shelter," the director informed, alarmed. "Journalists, photographers, and a group of protesters accusing us of institutional kidnapping. The situation is getting tense." "Eleanor is mobilizing public opinion," Ryan concluded. We need to transfer Sophia immediately to a safe location. With the help of authorities, the girl was discreetly transferred to a support home in another district. Meanwhile, Eleanor gave an emotional press conference in the mansion's gardens. My daughter was torn from her home by people with obscure agendas, she declared, calculated tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. I demand that Sophia return home to the arms of her family. William and I are devastated. The mention of her husband surprised William, who was watching the live broadcast in the Institute's office. She's using my name without authorization, he stated, indignant. I need to speak out. Not yet, Felicity advised. Your testimony will have more impact at the right time in the right setting, the court. Eleanor is used to manipulating the media. We cannot play her game. The next morning, the family court building was surrounded by journalists. The hearing would be closed, but the expectation for statements from the involved parties was enormous. Eleanor arrived accompanied by 3 renowned lawyers, wearing a discreet grey suit that conveyed sobriety and seriousness. Her confident gaze wavered when she saw William entering from the other side, accompanied by Felicity's team. "William, you finally arrived," she exclaimed, running towards him with open arms, aware of the cameras. "I've been so worried. We need to face this together, for the sake of our daughter." The businessman visibly pulled away, avoiding her embrace. "No, Eleanor. No more manipulations. I am here to defend Sophia, not you." Her face hardened for an instant before she regained her expression of suffering for the cameras. "You're confused, darling. These people have put absurd ideas in your head. Let's talk privately. We'll speak in court," he replied, continuing on his way. Inside the courtroom, Judge Helen Wallace, known for her strictness in child protection cases, reviewed the reports presented. Sophia was not present. She would be heard separately by a specialized team to avoid further trauma. "Before we begin," the judge announced, "I want to make it clear that my only concern here is the well-being of the minor Sophia Kensington. I am not impressed by names, fortunes, or political influence." The first to testify was Dr. Lucy, presenting her detailed medical report on Sophia's physical condition, the marks, the signs of mild malnutrition, the evidence of sleep deprivation. "In my 15 years as a pediatrician, I have rarely seen such a clear case of continuous mistreatment," she concluded. Dr. Marilyn presented her preliminary psychological evaluation, highlighting the signs of trauma from isolation and constant fear. The girl exhibits behaviors typical of victims of prolonged psychological abuse: fear of speaking, automatic responses, panic in conflict situations, and constant vigilance, as if always expecting punishment. When Cecilia took the witness stand, she revealed not only what she had witnessed in the mansion, but also her true identity and relationship with Sophia's deceased mother. Helen always suspected Eleanor, who started as a press officer for the construction company and quickly grew close to William after the pregnancy was announced. "Before giving birth, my cousin asked me to keep an eye on her daughter should anything happen to her. And why did you wait so long to report the mistreatment?" Eleanor's lawyer questioned. "I tried several times to warn Mr. Kensington, but Eleanor intercepted all communications. When I finally got a job in the house under a false name, I realized the extent of the problem. But I needed reliable allies before acting, or Sophia could face even worse consequences." The most impactful testimony, however, came from William himself. His voice choked with emotion. He admitted his negligence as a father, his willful blindness, and his commitment to completely change his life for his daughter. "I am stepping down from the presidency of the construction company, effective immediately. My absolute priority now is to rebuild my relationship with Sophia and ensure she never again experiences any form of suffering." When the photographs and videos of the darkroom were presented, there was a murmur of shock in the room. The images of Sophia's drawings, depicting her fear and despair, brought tears to the eyes of many present. Eleanor's defense tried to invalidate the evidence, alleging illegal entry into the residence and political persecution against an independent and successful woman. They presented testimonies from influential friends about Eleanor's exemplary character and her love for Sophia. They showed edited videos of happy family moments, all clearly staged for social events. The final blow came when Ryan presented his most important discovery: recovered recordings from the mansion's security system, which Marcus Shaw, Eleanor's trusted man, had tried to erase. In them, Eleanor was clearly seen dragging Sophia by the hair to the darkroom, screaming obscenities at the girl and repeatedly threatening her. "How did you obtain these recordings?" the judge asked. Marcus Shaw, a private security guard hired by Mrs. Kensington, voluntarily handed them over after being informed that he could be held as an accomplice in the mistreatment, Ryan explained. He kept copies as a personal insurance policy. When the audio was played, Eleanor's voice echoed through the room. "Your father will never believe you over me. I control everything, the money, the house, the staff. You are nothing but an inconvenience. If it weren't for the will, I would have gotten rid of you like I did your mother." A deathly silence fell over the courtroom. William paled, looking at the woman with whom he had shared the last few years. "This is manipulation!" Eleanor shrieked, completely losing her composure. "These recordings were edited. It's a conspiracy against me." The judge ordered immediate silence. After 4 hours of hearing, Judge Helen Wallace made her preliminary decision. Sophia would remain temporarily in state custody, receiving continuous psychological treatment. William would have supervised visits, gradually increasing according to the girl's emotional progress. Eleanor was prohibited from any contact with the child and would be investigated not only for the mistreatment, but also for the insinuation about Sophia's biological mother. Upon leaving the room, Eleanor was surrounded by journalists, but her lawyers quickly escorted her out of the building, avoiding statements. Her expression was no longer one of calculated suffering, but of barely contained fury. William, on the other hand, made a brief statement. "I failed as a father by not protecting my daughter. No construction, no contract, no professional success matters more than Sophia's well-being. I ask for respect for her privacy at this delicate time, and I promise to dedicate my life to rebuilding her trust and security." As the spotlight turned to the drama of the Kensington family, Sophia, oblivious to all the media commotion, took her first steps towards recovery. That afternoon, for the first time in years, she played spontaneously in the garden of the support home, under the warm London sun, without fearing reprimands or punishments. A small smile, still timid but genuine, began to form on her face. Brenda, observing from a distance, knew that the battle was not yet completely won. Helena had resources, contacts, and most importantly, secrets that had not yet come to light, secrets that could change everything again. 3 months had passed since the hearing that changed the fate of everyone involved. The Kensington case, as it became known, transformed into a symbol in the fight against child abuse in seemingly perfect homes. The mansion in Belgravia, once admired by the neighborhood, remained empty, with a discreet for sale sign on the gate. In a cozy house in the Richmond district, Sophia helped Aunt Julia, her temporary guardian and maternal great-aunt, water the garden plants. Gradually, the girl recovered not only her physical health, but mainly her ability to smile and trust. "Look, Auntie, the sunflowers are pointing to the sun," Sophia exclaimed, with an animation that would have been unthinkable months before. Julia, Sophia's maternal grandmother's sister, was a 65-year-old retired teacher who had become the girl's safe haven. Her small townhouse, filled with books and plants, offered the stable and loving environment the child so desperately needed. "Sunflowers are wise, dear. They always seek the light, even on cloudy days," Julia replied, adjusting her glasses on her gentle face. That afternoon, William would come for his bi-weekly visit. In the first meetings, supervised by Brenda and the psychologist, both father and daughter seemed uncomfortable. He, carrying the weight of guilt, she still associating adults with danger. But with patience and consistency, the relationship began to rebuild. At 4 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Sophia, who used to flinch at the sound of doorbells, now ran excitedly to the door. "Daddy's here!" William entered, no longer wearing the expensive suits of before, but casual clothes that reflected his new life. He carried a package wrapped in colorful paper. "Hello, Princess. How was your week?" "Good. I learned to multiply at school and got a golden star in my notebook." While Sophia proudly showed off her schoolwork, Julia prepared coffee in the kitchen. William took a moment alone to update his aunt on the legal developments. "The judge scheduled the final hearing for next month," he informed in a low voice. My lawyers are confident that I will get shared custody with Julia, as we requested. And what about her? Julia asked, avoiding mentioning the ex-stepmother's name in the house. Eleanor disappeared. After the offshore accounts were discovered, she did not appear at the last hearing. They believe she left the country with false documents. The investigation into Eleanor had revealed a complex scheme of diverting funds from Kensington Construction, in addition to disturbing indications about the death of Helen, Sophia's biological mother. Although there was no conclusive evidence, suspicions led to the reopening of the case, previously considered a natural death due to childbirth complications. The important thing is that Sophia is safe now, Julia commented. And every day I see more of my niece Helen in her, the same curiosity, the same sweetness. Across town at the Institute for the Defense of Children's Rights, Brenda met with Felicity and Ryan. The three had become not only professional partners, but friends united by a mission. The Child Welfare Services offered me reinstatement with a promotion, Brenda said, showing the official letter. Apparently, exposing a case of internal corruption turned me from a black sheep into a hero. It was the least they could do, Felicity commented. After Ryan's report revealed how the former supervisor filed away complaints in exchange for donations, the institution needed to show results. Ryan's investigative report, published 2 months earlier, had caused a revolution in the city's child protection system. Titled "The Silences We Sell: How the System Fails Our Children," the report exposed not only Sophia's case, but a systematic pattern of institutional negligence with children from influential families. The series is nominated for the National Press Award for Journalism, he commented, with a mixture of pride and humility. But the greatest prize was seeing the real changes it provoked. 3 new bills were introduced to strengthen the child protection system. The trio's work had inspired other professionals. A group of social workers, lawyers, and journalists now met regularly to discuss complex cases and offer mutual support. The Sophia effect, as it came to be called, showed that intersectoral cooperation could overcome seemingly insurmountable barriers. Speaking of Sophia, Brenda said, checking her watch, I promised to stop by today to bring the results of her latest psychological follow-up. Do you want to come with me? Upon arriving at Julia's house, they found a scene that warmed their hearts. Sophia, William, and her aunt were building a birdhouse for the garden together. The girl, concentrating on painting the small roof red, showed none of the signs of constant tension that characterized her before. Look, Brenda, she called as soon as she saw them. We're making a house for the birds that visit our backyard. It's beautiful, Brenda praised, still moved by every bit of the girl's progress. After Sophia returned to focus on her painting, William led the 3 visitors to the porch, where they could talk privately. How are the sessions with the therapist going? Felicity asked. Surprisingly well. Dr. Michael says her resilience is extraordinary. She still has occasional nightmares and moments of anxiety, but the progress is consistent. And what about you? Ryan questioned. How are you dealing with all of this? William looked at the horizon before answering. I'm learning to be a real father. I never imagined that giving up the company presidency would be so liberating. I realized I built an empire, but not a life. He showed them the plans for the new foundation he was creating, no longer a facade for social marketing as before, but a genuine organization supporting children victims of domestic violence. Part of the construction company's profits will be permanently directed to the foundation, and we are renovating one of my old properties to become a model shelter. When they returned to the garden, they found Sophia finishing decorating the birdhouse with small flowers glued to the entrance. It's for the birds to feel welcome, she explained with the perfect logic of childhood. Everyone deserves a beautiful place to call home. The profound simplicity of that phrase silenced the adults for a moment. That night, after dinner, Julia was getting Sophia ready for bed when the girl made an unusual request. Auntie, can we go to the river on Sunday? To the river? Which river, dear? Anyone that has running water. I need to throw something in it. Intrigued, Julia agreed. The following Sunday, the expanded group, Sophia, Julia, William, Brenda, Felicity, Ryan, and even Cecilia, who now worked at the foundation, gathered on the banks of the River Thames, at a rare, well-preserved stretch with public access. Sophia opened her small backpack and took out a golden key, an exact replica of the one that opened the dark room, made by William at the request of the child psychologist as part of the therapeutic process of resignification. "This key will no longer lock anyone," the girl declared with a touching seriousness. Then, with a decisive movement, she threw it into the water. Everyone watched in silence as the golden key briefly glittered under the sun before sinking and being carried away by the current. Brenda thought of how many children like Sophia were still locked in dark rooms, literal or metaphorical, waiting for someone to notice their silent cries for help. How many adult eyes passed them daily without truly seeing? As if reading her thoughts, Sophia turned to Brenda and took her hand. "Thank you for listening to me when I couldn't speak loudly." That simple sentence contained the entire purpose of a career, the entire essence of a mission. Brenda gently squeezed the small hand in hers, feeling the immense privilege of having made a difference in a child's life. 2 months later, after the final hearing, shared custody was officially granted to William and Julia. The judicial decision, considered innovative, recognized that Sophia needed both her father's presence and the emotional stability offered by her aunt. The arrangement allowed the girl to maintain her school and therapeutic routine at Julia's house, with William actively participating in her daily life and spending weekends with her. The foundation created by William became a national reference in programs for the prevention and combat of child abuse. The businessman, once known for his real estate ventures, was now recognized as an activist for the cause. His voice joined others in demanding structural changes in the child protection system. Ryan continued his journalistic career with a focus on human rights, refusing offers from large media outlets to maintain his editorial independence. His series on the Kensington case inspired a new generation of investigative reporters committed to social causes. Felicity expanded the Institute's legal department, creating a national network of volunteer lawyers specializing in children's rights. Her tireless work helped modify important legislation and create judicial precedents that facilitated the protection of other at-risk children. As for Eleanor, rumors said she had been seen in Eastern European countries, always disguised and constantly on the move. Her name was on Interpol's wanted list, not only for crimes against Sophia, but also for financial investigations and suspicions related to Helen's death. On a sunny spring afternoon, 1 year after Sophia's rescue, Brenda visited Julia's house for the girl's birthday party. In the backyard decorated with colorful balloons, children ran and played, while adults chatted in small groups. Among the guests were schoolmates, neighbors, and all those who had participated in that extraordinary journey. Sophia, now 7 years old, ran barefoot on the grass, leading a lively game of tag. Her hair, once always pulled back in severe hairstyles, now flew free in the wind. The spontaneous laughter, the relaxed posture, the bright eyes. Everything about her revealed a child who finally felt safe enough to simply be a child. During Happy Birthday, when everyone gathered around the cake, decorated with colorful butterflies, Brenda noticed something significant. Sophia did not look nervously around before acting, did not whisper her answers, did not flinch when someone raised their voice in excitement. The ghosts of the dark room finally began to dissipate. After the party, while helping with the cleanup, Brenda found a drawing Sophia had recently made at school. Unlike the somber drawings from before, this one showed a colorful house, smiling people holding hands and butterflies flying over a blue river. In the bottom corner, in still childish but confident handwriting, was written, "My New Family." At that moment, Brenda understood that justice is not just about punishing the guilty, but primarily about restoring possibilities. The true victory was not in the courts or in the headlines, but in that drawing full of colors, in that free laughter, in that child who had come to believe again that the world could be a safe place. "Sometimes," Julia said, approaching with a cup of tea, "I think about how many Sophias there are out there, in homes that seem perfect on the outside." "That's why we can never stop," Brenda replied. "Every child saved is a victory against indifference." Sophia appeared running, with her faithful bear Teddy in one hand and a storybook in the other. "Aunt Brenda, can you read to me before you go?" "It's about a girl who turns into a butterfly." As they settled on the garden swing for the reading, Brenda reflected on the transformations of that extraordinary year. She herself was no longer the same person. She had learned about courage, persistence, and the importance of trusting her own instincts. Ryan and Felicity, now discreetly dating, had also found renewed purpose in their careers. William had discovered that being a father went far beyond providing financially. And Sophia was finally free to fly. The story Brenda read spoke of metamorphosis, of a being that completely transforms to achieve its true nature. It was a perfect metaphor for what they had lived. Like the caterpillar that must break free from its cocoon to become a butterfly, all of them had to face resistance, fears, and limits to emerge stronger and more authentic. When she finished reading, Sophia was already sleeping peacefully, her head resting on Brenda's shoulder. On the horizon, the sun set over London, casting golden tones over the city of contrasts. A city where even among skyscrapers and imposing mansions, the destiny of a small girl had managed to mobilize hearts and change entire systems. Brenda gently adjusted the sleeping child in her arms, knowing that this would not be the last battle, but carrying with her the certainty that no door is strong enough when there are people determined to open it from the outside, and that behind every locked door there might be a child just waiting for someone to be brave enough to say, "I'm safe here." End of story. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Sophia, Brenda, and all the characters involved in this emotional journey has touched your hearts. Every child deserves a safe and loving home, and each of us can make a difference, even if it's just by paying attention to the silent signs around us. For more narratives that explore the complexity of human relationships and the strength of resilience, we have prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories. Find it by clicking the link to your left. If this story stirred emotions in you, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Every day we bring content that goes beyond entertainment, promoting reflection and empathy. And you, have you noticed warning signs in any child around you? Share your experiences in the comments. Remember, sometimes all it takes is an attentive look to completely change someone's destiny. Until our next encounter.